Okay, so I'm recording this because my Wi-Fi was cutting out during lecture today. So I will go ahead and record a fresh one. I'll make sure the audio is all clean so I don't cut out so much, and we will go from there. Sorry about that. I'll make sure to fix that in the future. So starting again from the top. Uh, this week and the next 3 weeks, well, 2 or 3, we're going to be talking about World War One. All right, we finally made it to the 20th century. All right, I know it took us a while, but we're finally here. Um, First off, I want to remind you all to make sure to read the reading and all the websites that I put up for you guys. That'll really help you get a better understanding than just sitting in the lecture for like 20 to 30 minutes. All right, so today we're going to start by talking about the beauty of alliances. All right. And by beauty, I mean horrible consequences. So, first off, you have two major alliances in the First World War. All right. The first is what we like to call the Triple Alliance or the Axis powers. All right. It's the same thing. Um, but we will be calling this the Axis powers. All right. This is Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. All right. You'll notice that's fairly similar to the alliances that end up happening in World War II, but I'm jumping ahead of myself. So this is the Triple Alliance in red. This is the Triple Entente in blue. All right. Those are the Allied powers. That's what we call them. I know Entente is a weird word. So this people in blue are the Allied powers. This is who stereotypically we talk about being the good guys. Don't rely on that too much. But in terms of Western history, so in terms of what the United States will tell you, Russia, United Kingdom, and France are the good guys here. And then Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy are the bad guys. Really, there's no good or bad guys in war. Everyone's killing people. All right. So, why are these alliances a thing? Why would you bother to get into all these alliances when you know potentially all it's going to do is drag you into a war? So let's cut away from this map for a second and talk about that. One of the biggest reasons for this war is a paranoia of both the Germans and the British and really all European powers that the other European countries were conspiring against them. All right. The Probably the biggest country that's known for their paranoia is Germany. All right. You see that right here in number 9. Part of the reason that Germany is so paranoid and so scared that all of the other European countries are going to attack them is that if you look at this map, Germany's in the middle of everyone else. All right. It's in the middle of Russia, France, and the United Kingdom. And you have to remember at this time that the United Kingdom has the largest navy in the world. Russia has the largest military in the world. So Germany is terrified that these two countries, which are allied with each other, are conspiring to take over Germany and crush Germany and then take their colonial assets as well. All right. So take their land in Africa. So Germany decides that they're going to start building a bigger navy and they're going to ally themselves with Italy and Austria-Hungary so that it's a worse idea to go to war with them because then you're fighting 3 countries instead of one. In response, Britain, excuse me, Britain, France, and Russia actually formed the Triple Entente. So now you have two huge groups of powers that are pitched against each other. They're not quite at war yet, but it's very clear that there's a lot of tension here. All right. This leads to an arms race. All right. And what an arms race is it's just people trying to build more and more guns than their enemies or better guns than their enemies and just try and build. If you build up enough army, supposedly, you'll be too scary of an enemy to face, so nobody will dare fight you, right? That's the idea, at least. That rarely actually works out, but you'll actually see this happen 3 or 4 times in the history of the world, right? You don't really need to know a lot about the Ottoman Empire, so we'll go ahead and skip that. Imperialism, all right? Part of the whole conflict of World War One is the fact that some countries are jealous of other countries because they have more colonial assets, right? And what we mean when we say that is we mean that if you look at the map of Africa in the 1900s, you see that France and Britain and Spain own a lot of African colonies. But Germany and Italy don't. Okay. Germany and Italy own very little land compared to Britain, France, and Spain. All right. And Germany and Italy, they don't like that, right? They don't like the fact that they're getting outplayed, essentially. Um, and so they kind of want to go to war with those powers. Because if you go to war with Britain, then you also go to war with their colonies and you can take their colonies away from them, right? So that's a big factor in why World War One actually started. All right. People want to steal other countries' colonies. And we already talked about the alliances, nationalism. All right. I told you about nationalism very early on in the year. One of the biggest conflicts and the original conflict that starts this war is the conflict between the Serbian people and the Hungarian people, so Austria-Hungary and Serbia. That's because the Serbian people are very nationalistic, right? They really love being Serbian. They love what it means to be Serbian, their Slavic heritage, right? And the Hungarians don't, all right? The Hungarians um, treat the Serbians very poorly. They don't have the same amount of rights. They're treated like second class citizens. They're treated like dirt. All right. So the Serbians obviously don't like that. And they declare um, independence. All right. So do a number of other small countries with the help of Russia. All right. Because Russia is a Slavic nation. All right. So Russia helps the Slavic people of Serbia and the surrounding countries declare independence from Hungary. Obviously, Hungary doesn't like that. So you see all of these tensions are starting to build. There's a lot of different reasons that these countries don't like each other right now. And then here, this is the last one we're really going to talk about. Nowadays, there's a lot of international laws, all right? Even if you think back to when we were talking about human rights, those are international laws. A lot of those international laws have to do with what happens when you declare war with a country, right? And how you have to declare war with a country and how conflict has to happen. Back in the early 1900s, none of those laws existed. So there weren't as many consequences or ramifications for countries who went to war, all right? So you have all these countries who genuinely don't like each other very much. They have all these reasons to not like each other. Some of them are literally sponsoring terrorists, or at least Hungary sees Serbians as terrorists at this time, in another person's country. So eventually, given enough time and a spark, the conflict will naturally break out. The spark that sets off World War One. And you have to understand that doesn't mean it was the only reason that World War One happened. It's just the last straw. All right. Was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So, speaking of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, this man right here, he was a relatively interesting, relatively odd character for the time. All right. He was a part of the royal family of Austria-Hungary, but he was sympathetic to the Serbians, all right? He was sympathetic to the Serbian cause. He thought that if the Serbians could get equal rights and the Serbians could have a equal shot at a good life, in Austria-Hungary, that they wouldn't be rebelling, all right? That they wouldn't be constantly fighting the Austro-Hungarians, and Austria-Hungary wouldn't have to go to war with them all the time. So he thought that would be a great idea. His father doesn't like this idea. Excuse me. His father actually doesn't like him at all. But a lot of people believe that if he had survived and actually taken the throne, that the war would have either been delayed or might not have even happened at all. But unfortunately, real history isn't so nice, and things don't always go perfectly. So he and his wife are assassinated during a trip to Sarajevo, which is a city along the border of Austria-Hungary and Serbia. This essentially means that the only person in Austria-Hungary that was willing to consider the Serbian way of thinking and the Serbian way of doing things was dead. And not only that, the remaining people in power, oh, excuse me, are pissed off that the Serbians have just killed the heir to the throne of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So that's the last straw. Like I said, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. And if we go back to this map, you'll notice who's allied with Serbia? Russia. All right. Russia has the largest military in the world. So Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. And because Serbia is allied with them and they ask for help, Russia declares war on Austria-Hungary. Then Germany declares war on Russia, as well as Italy declares war on Russia because they're all allied, which in turn, guess what? Means France and the United Kingdom are also at war with Germany and Austria-Hungary and Italy. It's not that simple, but essentially, by the time 1914 rolls around, you have a situation where all three of these countries are at war with these three countries and Serbia and Montenegro. All right. We'll talk a little bit more about how the United Kingdom gets roped into this later, and we'll talk more about how the US actually gets roped into this a lot later. But all you need to know for now is the very basics. So these three countries are the Triple Entente, or the Allied powers. Now, because of a lot of reasons, they're at war with these three countries, the Triple Alliance, or the Axis powers. All right. So I will make this website available for you. I will also make this map available for you guys. And of course, you already have the reading. So hopefully this recording was very crystal clear and I didn't cut out that much. I apologize again for the McDonald's Wi-Fi. I'll make sure to get that fixed by Monday. And I'll make sure to get this recording up as quick as I can. But that's all I was going to say. Awesome.